Before we get started on Moroi, we just wanted to say this channel has one specific purpose at the moment: to save you time, money, and disappointment. Every video here focuses on products that didn't exactly land well with critics or audiences. We essentially go through reviews from all the major places: professional publications, critics, and regular people who actually spent their own money. Then we paraphrase and summarize the overall consensus into one clear and easy breakdown. Think of it as a consumer warning label that's based on aggregated reviews and opinions from several publications and gamers out there. So, if you've ever seen the game Moroi, you'll probably notice the game looks quite fascinating. But don't be fooled, because apparently the game just isn't that great. Of course, a lot of people have still enjoyed it. These reviews are merely educated opinions, and many things are subjective. That being said, we also can't deny that something is bad when there are many different voices complaining about the same things. So let's start with the website The SixthAxis. I'll highlight the positive things they mentioned, followed by the negatives. Their review basically says, and I'm paraphrasing here, that Moroi's world is wonderfully unhinged. Everything looks grotesque in a way that somehow works. Characters and enemies are so bizarre they feel like they were sculpted out of nightmare clay at 3 in the morning. Every area has its own personality. Every creature looks like it crawled out of a different bad dream. And that distinctiveness gives the game a strange charm. They also like the puzzles, which apparently hit a nice balance. They make you think just enough to feel smart without making you want to Google the solution in shame. Toss in a decent variety of weapons, some hidden lore scattered around for curious players, and suddenly the game has replay value for anyone who enjoys poking around dark corners to see what weird thing is hiding there. But then, the awful combat enters the chat. According to the SixthAxis, the fighting doesn't always live up to the vibes. It can feel clunky, like your controller is translating your inputs through a slightly confused interpreter. Some fights feel awkward instead of exciting. And there are random difficulty spikes that come out of nowhere. 1 minute you're cruising, the next you're stuck in a boss fight wondering if the game secretly hates you. Add a few minor bugs on top of that, even in the review build, and suddenly the experience feels rougher than it should. Since combat is such a big part of the game, those issues stand out more, like a squeaky wheel on an otherwise cool-looking bike. Now let's go over to CG Magazine, who start off with a similar reaction. They describe Moroi's world as bold and bizarre, like a grim fairy tale collided with a metal album cover and nobody bothered to clean up afterward. It absolutely nails the mood. The story tone bounces between creepy, weird, and occasionally funny, keeping things unpredictable. The dialogue leans hard into that surreal energy, which some players will love and others might find confusing in a "what did I just read" way. They also point out that the game hints at multiple endings, which is always a nice little breadcrumb for players who like replaying games to see what they missed. The soundtrack gets praised too, blending orchestral music with heavier metal during combat, which helps sell the dark, aggressive atmosphere. But then CG Magazine gets to the part where the enthusiasm starts to fade. Their biggest complaint is that the gameplay just doesn't keep up with the world it's trying to show off. Both puzzles and combat feel undercooked. Puzzles can be either too easy or oddly unclear, landing more like busy work than clever challenges. Combat feels floaty and unsatisfying, with choppy animations and hits that don't feel like they have any weight, like you're swinging at enemies made of air. Some of that comes from the top-down perspective. It tries to act like a twin-stick action game, but doesn't quite give you enough control, especially on a controller. The result is movement that feels loose in a bad way, like trying to ice skate in socks. On top of that, there were technical problems. Graphical glitches, animations snapping weirdly, and even a section that kept crashing until a patch fixed it. Unfortunately, that same patch removed some dialogue that was important for knowing what to do next. Add in noticeable music loops and rough audio transitions, and the whole thing starts feeling less polished than it should. Let's also paraphrase this short synopsis from the website Hey Poor Player. Their take is basically that Moroi gets so obsessed with being weird and artsy that it forgets it's also supposed to be a game with a clear story and satisfying gameplay. It's like a surreal art exhibit that looks incredible, makes you think for a minute, and then you leave wondering what exactly you just experienced. So while the game keeps you curious, it also kind of shrugs and walks away instead of giving you solid answers or deeper mechanics. On the other hand, GameBlast are a bit more forgiving, but not entirely. They describe Moroi as a dark fairy tale that really commits to mood, atmosphere, and storytelling. That said, the gameplay is fairly limited, and there are technical hiccups along the way, which can pull you out of the experience. Basically, it's a flawed but fascinating storybook, as long as you're willing to ignore a few torn pages and smudged ink along the way. Some anonymous users even said that Moroi was rushed out the door before anyone stopped to ask, "Hey, does this actually feel finished?" In their eyes, it comes off as an unpolished top-down hack and slash that feels repetitive almost immediately. They also weren't shy about calling out the technical mess. Annoying glitches pop up, and there are moments where sound is missing entirely during some cutscenes, which really helps kill the mood when you're supposed to be paying attention to the story. So when you put everything together, the takeaway is pretty clear. Moroi has decent looks, a fascinatingly weird world, and a strong atmosphere that makes you want to explore. But once you actually start playing, the cracks start to show. The gameplay never quite rises to match the ambition, leaving you admiring the scenery more than enjoying the ride. Like staring at a gorgeous sports car that unfortunately drives like a shopping cart with one bad wheel.